What the Senate staffers overseeing USAID said is we had no visibility on this entire operation the entire time because USAID told us if they had to tell us what we were doing, people could die. This is classic CIA stuff, but the Senate was blocked. And I should note, again, when it's too dirty for the CIA, you give it to USAID. This is why these drug operations and these terrorist operations run primarily through USAID rather than directly at the CIA. The Inspector General just 2 weeks ago put out a report. This is the first time this has been publicly reported. There's been an Inspector General at USAID practically from the day it was born. This is what Joni Ernst was complaining about. Senator Joni Ernst was complaining about, which was that how can they get away with this? And it's because of the Inspector General, who's supposed to hold the agency to account from the inside, but it's an independent agency, so there's limited oversight from the outside. If you have a rogue Inspector General, they keep the whole op in-house. Don't need to tell the executive branch, don't need to tell the Senate or Congress. Run it just like an Ollie North, Iran-Contra style, self-sustained, standalone, off-the-shelf private enterprise to run covert action on taxpayer dime, but not have it go through the formal approval channels. Well, so basically, what they were doing here in what the OIG report, the Inspector General report, just published, and the best article on this with the link to it is John Solomon's Just the News. Published this, a write-up on it, as well as the source document from the OIG's office. We're just now learning this 2 weeks ago, despite them doing this activity for 30 years. It turns out there's a get out of sponsoring terrorism free card at USAID, which is that USAID cannot directly provide funding to terrorist groups, but their contractors are not required under the grant agreements to go through those, OFAC style, those counterterrorism financing. If a bank did it, you would go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not have liberty again for the next 20 years of your life. But if USAID does it, it's completely legal right now. And so this is how you have USAID giving, they just last week, $122 million to ISIS, we found. They fund all the terrorist groups in Pakistan. They fund the terrorist groups in the Sahel in Africa.
And for what purpose?
Paramilitary terrorist groups are extremely useful to U.S. statecraft as for DoD special operations work, as well as for political destabilization work. I'll give you a great example. We'll stay in Pakistan. Osama Bin Laden, a peaceful, what was it? A warrior on the road to peace. Everyone remember the puff pieces about Osama Bin Laden before
the Mujahideen.
The Mujahideen. The Mujahideen. Here's a great clip. Can you find the clip of Zbigniew Brzezinski? I believe this is around 1789. Airdropping out of a helicopter.
1989?
No, 79, I believe. It was
1979.
Yeah. If you type in Zbigniew Brzezinski, that's going to be a wallop one to spell live. But if you just do Zbigniew Brzezinski, you can go to YouTube and type in Mujahideen, and you'll watch him airdrop out of a helicopter and make the exact same speech that John McCain made to the Azov Battalion, the extremist paramilitary faction of Ukraine that was banned from getting federal funding, in 2014 when the Democrats said they're all Nazis, but now they're all, sponsored and get standing ovations in the halls of Congress because now they are geopolitically useful to pump up, to capacity build. So here you go. So here you go.
U.S. National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. On the Afghan border near the Khyber Pass, he urged the soldiers of God to redouble their efforts.
Can you pause for a sec? Notice how he said he wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. Okay? The whole point was to pump up this, fundamentalist, extremist, terrorist group with the funding and support they need, but without revealing America's role. Hello, USAID. That's the function today, but keep on.
No, of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day, because your fight will prevail and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again, because your cause is right and God is on your side.
That land is yours. Go out there and take it. We'll give you the money. Now, Jamie, if you can pull up one thing, and I'm going to just talk a little bit more about this case while you're pulling this up. You can find this, I believe, on my X feed. I've posted this clip, but you could also find it searching either X or YouTube of John McCain, and I believe he was with Lindsey Graham, making that exact same speech using the same language in, I believe it was 2016 or 24. I believe it was 2016 around then, to the Azov battalion folks in Ukraine and to the paramilitaries. It's almost word for word. This was, but let me stick on the Mujahideen thing for a second, because this gets back to this fundamental structuring. Why USAID is tasked with this. There's a bigger budget than the CIA. USAID does. It capacity builds the assets that CIA liaises with. But if the assets aren't there, CIA has no one to tell what to do. They've none of their agents on the ground or case officers can build an action plan unless there are assets on the ground that have money, that have training, that have food, that have shelter. And USAID steps in to put the chess pieces on the board that the CIA can play with. Interestingly, I should note that the CIA gets a copy of every grant that the National Endowment for Democracy makes. This was published in the New York Times in a piece called Global Missionaries for Global Pluralism, about USAID's top operational arm, NED. But the point I'm getting at here is, why were we funding terrorists in the 1970s and 80s? Well, according to our national security advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the grand chessboard, this celebrated apex predator of American statecraft. I think he had a quote that was something like, "Well, what does arming a few Islamic fundamentalists matter when weighed against the history of America winning the Cold War?" That this fundamentally destabilized and bogged the Soviet Union down. This was extremely effective. But also, how did we fund the Mujahideen? Well, the Mujahideen is in Afghanistan. They were before they became Al-Qaeda and ISIS. What asset does Afghanistan have to play with in order to fund its war network, its paramilitary network? Well, it's the drug network. They happen to sit on the basically the poppy fields that, when exploited, comprise 95% of the world's heroin, if you export that.